As you can see, I've driven over my lines. I've painted over my lines. And I think they're more or less sitting where I would like them to be. So, I got a little bit of cobalt blue here. And alizarin crimson. So let's get the shady side of this shed painted in. I'm going to go a little bit redder when we start working around the corner. Sun's going to catch this side of the shed. And I think I'd like to have a board missing right here. So we'll probably see a few studs, you know. Give a little bit of interest to that front wall. Okay, that's all I need for that. I'll give my brush a wipe. Let me just... Okay, we're going to go a little redder. We're not raising the value too much because... Actually, we're not raising the value at all. We're just warming it up. Because I want my brush strokes, when I actually overpaint it, I want them to sparkle. I don't want competition from my underpainting. So I just took this and added a touch of cad red medium and a bit of alizarin crimson. Okay, that's enough of those colors. We will take them off the palette with some high-tech rag here, toilet paper. Give the brush a little wipe. Okay, ultramarine blue, green roofs. Green roofs is what we're after. Okay, so that means ultramarine blue, bit of yellow ochre, and actually I'm going to add a little bit of touch of burnt sienna to it. Even though it's an underpainting, and I would like it low value, I would like it to be kind of warm-ish. But again, low value. It's just the underpainting. It's only going to show through in the odd area. That's very dark. Let me add a little bit yellow ochre to it. Oh, maybe I shouldn't worry about it. There, no, I went too light. Okay. How's that? That's okay. So I'm mixing up my oil paints now for the wash-in with, what am I using here? Varsol paint thinner. I'm not making it so runny that you can see through it, obviously. It's fairly opaque. What? It would be the consistency of light cream, maybe? Oh, that's enough green. I'm going to put some gray on this bit of fence here. Actually, maybe what I'll do is put a little bit of, I'll add a little bit of raw umber and yellow ochre to my roof mixture. And we'll do the prairie background with that while we're at it. Okay. Now we'll clean that off the palette. The palette. Okay, raw umber, a little bit, and ultramarine blue. Touch of white, not much. I use titanium white all the time. I never use another one. Don't like zinc white. Well, lead white obviously isn't around anymore. Excuse me. Zinc white dries horrifically fast. Horrifically fast. I don't like it. Or at least the zinc white I have. Still sitting in the tube from I don't know how many years ago. Bought it because I was curious. I mean, you don't learn that stuff unless, well, somebody tells you, or you experiment. Okay, that's looking pretty. It's looking pretty blue. Bluish, grayish blue. Whoops. Don't forget the end post. Alright, so subject-wise, this painting obviously looks pretty barren at the moment. That will change. Alright. Our sky is going to be a grey one again. Love grey skies. Well, they don't have to be grey, but I don't know. I just like them. They don't have to be stormy either. But if you wash in with grey, then you're able to go anywhere you like with it. You can paint the blue sky over it. You can put cloud formations in it. Because then you're cutting into the gray that's already on your canvas. This is cobalt blue. raw umber. It's pretty dark. It's fine. It'll get lighter. It'll get lighter when we paint the actual painting. Right now it's practically as though we're just, well, we are coloring in between the lines. We don't get to get very creative until we get into our sky. Yeah, I've got no design drawn in the foreground or in the sky yet. You know, some suggested lines. I like what I had here, but I'm not going to go up. I think I'm just going to cut across more or less. Loosish. Excuse me, maybe cloud on the bottom, maybe a bit of blue sky showing up higher. Not sure yet. And the design on the ground, I'll determine. I'll probably get the sky in mostly first before deciding what to do with the foreground. This isn't coming from a photograph, I'm just making it up. I'm sort of, in a way, handicapping myself because this has to come from my imagination. And experience, of course, from different things I've seen. But the good thing is that I'm never tempted to look at my reference and say to myself, oh, that's not the way it is. I better not do this, or I better not do that. Because I don't have a reference. I can change it. It's in my mind. In that twisted rat's maze of a mind. So in that way, it's a little bit easier. No restrictions. You know, and it's come to a point sometimes where I'm just kind of lost. I don't know what I want to do with a certain area. I can look at some photos, or anybody can do that. You can go online. You can get ideas from anywhere. Go for a drive. You know, it's there is source material all over the place. All you have to do is use it. Yeah, I guess I made a bit of a mess of that. Oh well. Again, stuff can all be fixed. It is a disheveled old cabin, so a bit of a mess should be expected. Cabin, shed, whatever you want to call it. Okay. This little brush is not very old, but it's already beginning to splay. See, you can't get good hard edges too easily. Sometimes, if I just get, you know, a few hairs, like here, starting to peel off the side a little bit, bending, I'll take nail clippers and trim them. But eventually it just becomes too much and I don't worry about it. Okay. Let's get a bigger brush. What was I using here? That was number 4. This will be what, an 8 probably. Yeah, it's an 8. Okay, more cobalt blue, more raw umber, more white. Loosely matching the gray that's already there. If it's not quite dead on, I don't care, it doesn't matter. Again, it's a wash in. And frankly, even when you're painting the painting in, you don't always want every brushstroke to match every other one. You'll end up with a dead painting. I don't know if murdering your painting is against the law or not, but whoop, that's a little too blue. A little too blue. More raw umber. But just out of sympathy for the painting, you know, you shouldn't really go around killing paintings for no reason. Okay, let's go up to there to start with and see. What do we think of that? Whoops, getting a bit of brush junk there. Bit of a wayward filament of cloud here. Obviously there's some wind. Something like that. Whoops. Keep getting little bits of junk in there. I guess one of my piles of paint had a bit of skin on it and I just ended up mixing it in with the fresh stuff. Okay, that gray will have subtle varieties in it too when I do the overpainting, but for now, that kind of gives us the idea of what we're after. Let me see if we do that. Is that potential for something good? Maybe not. We'll see. Okay. Let's dump that gray now off the palette. Not dump it, but scrape it up, wipe it off. And go to our ultramarine blue. Now we're going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson to it and a hint of white. Give us that clean prairie sky color when you're looking up into the deep blue yonder. Now again, the valleys are going to be too low right now. But that's fine. Better that than too high. Okay, a little more ultramarine blue. I'm mostly adding a little bit of alizarin crimson to it to take that cartoonish vibrancy away from straight ultramarine blue. You know, it'll lean it towards purple a little bit and help to. It's kind of more of a mature look. At least on this painting, I think it's a useful thing to do. It's not always. Every painting's different. I do things differently on every painting as well. I don't just, you know, you play it by ear. I don't follow the same system, the same sequence of things on every painting. And of course, now that we have our most important elements and subject matter in place, everything else around it is going to be supportive. And that's my first concern. In this case, it's a fairly simple painting, so really what I'm enjoying about this is getting rid of the white, so it doesn't glare at me. It's a bit lighter. No, it's not. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a bit too light. Okay. I'll cut around that cloud. If it ends up being a cloud, I think I'm going to get rid of that. See, those two are a little too close in shape, a little too close in length, blah blah blah. Fixes for later. Fixes for later. You know, the more information you have in one area, the easier it is to make decisions as to what kind of information you want to put in another area. Which is why I do tend to, even during my wash-ins, often paint different areas all over the place. I don't go by the old rule necessarily of farthest first coming towards it. You know, working your way towards the viewer. Oh, excuse me. There, we could cut into that a little bit too. Take some of this color, introduce it to there. Back and forth they go. It's a symbiotic relationship. Maybe we put a hint of that down here too. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, so that's what our sky is going to be, ish, right? I have a few little flecks of debris which I'll pick off. Sometimes it helps for this to dry a little bit before you pluck off your little flakes of stuff or bits of skin. So, you know, this, by the time I've done washing this paint again, if I leave it for an hour, it's lost most of its slipperiness because the thinner that I've used has evaporated. If I want it to be much drier, I'll leave it till tomorrow. Before going into it with actual, you know, with paint, with straight paint. When you're washing in, unless you employ the whole different way of doing things, glazing for example, or what have you, don't use oil. Don't mix your paint with oil. That's for later. That's fat. That makes it fat because there's oil in it. What you want to do is you want to thin it off with thinner, you know, a solvent actually. You know, you're always you want to paint fat over lean. So you mix it with solvent, it goes lean. Mix it with oil, it goes fat. So I never use oil in my wash-ins. I do occasionally not wash a sky in at all. I'll just go in with white canvas and make my sky paint. You know, as I'm mixing my pile of sky colors on my palette, I'll add linseed oil just to make it more blendable and smoother. That gives it a bit of a different look. I like it. I don't always do it, but sometimes I do. Then I'm just going white, and then I'm just going right over the white canvas, and different technique. But then it's it. That's it. You know. Then it's not likely that I'll touch it anymore. I'm finishing this guy. I'm going right from beginning to end, all in one go. Well, alla prima, I guess, as they would say. That's not the case here. All right, we'll wipe off our ultramarine blue here and go to something for the ground. What shall we do? Ground coffee? Ground beef? I don't know. And I do apologize for the utter childishness of puns like that. Anyway, okay. Well, you know, I'm not feeling bad about it. What do we do here? What sort of line? This goes down that way, that comes down, so we've got Zorro going on already. And maybe this can be fairly nondescript, you know? Maybe the final painting will have a few bits of bunch grass here and there. Maybe something across here. No, do I want to do that? You know, it'll counter the sky, which is okay. It doesn't have to. The sky doesn't need countering. It's already got this. You know, I think I have a notion of what I'd like to do with it. Let's mix a little bit of yellow ochre and a little bit of raw umber here. Because I think it's quite possible that we will have a little bit of golden grass in front here. I'm starting off with my value too high already. A little bit bumpy there. Bit of grass in front. I've thinned off this little bit of paint a little more than I like. Alright, get rid of this little brush again, because we're not butting up against anything. Let me scoop into this raw umber again, yellow ochre again. Maybe a hint of ultramarine blue. I avoid cobalt blue right now because you mix cobalt blue into those colors, you end up with quite green, quite quickly. But it's not quite green that I'm after. I want to have a hint of green, but mostly subdued values, I think, is what we're chasing right now. Now let's go to ultramarine blue and raw umber. Let's make that foreground dark so that that cabin really pops out. Cabin, I keep calling it a cabin. Shed. Whatever you want to say, it's all good. Collecting more junk on my brush here. Where'd it go? It's hiding. It's hiding in my brush. Okay, more ultramarine blue. And I have to squeeze a little bit more raw umber onto my palette. I'm being kind of careful because I don't want a bunch of paint sitting on my palette if I don't have to for a couple of days. I think I mentioned yesterday that we're heading out for a couple of days. So I won't upload a video tomorrow, and not Sunday obviously, unless we get back really early and I have a video done from today. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Most likely we'll see you next week after this. Okay, well that gives us some kind of design in the foreground anyway. Didn't need much, but it needed something. You know, these could be shadows from trees that are off the canvas to the left. Or it could just be grass going into dirt. I don't know yet. It's not about, I don't have to worry about that. It's just, right now it's just lines. Right now this can be identified as lighter and warmer. This can be identified as darker and cooler. That's all I need to know. Okay, the white is gone. I'm happy with that. I think, let me stand up and back up for a moment. I'll give you the traditional square-on shot here with the camera. And there we go. So you can see the paint that I put on there. It's not opaque, but it's not very translucent either. Okay, this is our project. Talk to you soon.